This gear sucks. As a gear reviewer, I've gotten to try a ton of different gear over my thousands of miles of backpacking. And a lot of it, most of it honestly, has been great. Some pieces of gear, though, I really hate, and I hate it with such a passion that I want to complain about it to you all today. Hi, I'm Katie, aka Double Dip, and I've thru-hiked the CDT, CT, JMT, Long Trail, and I've done all of those things with very different backpacking setups. I'm a firm believer that there's rarely bad gear, there's just bad gear for you and for your situation, so I hesitate to badmouth any gear publicly because what doesn't work for me might work great for you. The next few items, though, I kind of feel like no one should be using. Open invitation to attack me in the comments below. I know gear is so personal, and if you use any of these things and I'm telling you you're wrong, please fight back. Try to change my mind, but you won't be able to. The first is this solar charging lantern. In theory, it's so awesome. It uses this solar panel to absorb UV radiation, which charges it. It has this plug where you can charge your phone or any other electronics through it. And the best part is that if you pop this open and blow into it in a way that makes you look really weird, it becomes a lantern. I used this on my John Muir Trail thru hike, and I had envisioned myself using this every night at camp, playing cards with friends, and using the light to really set the scene for our camp experience. Instead, what I found was that this thing takes forever to charge. The JMT is very sunny, and this thing was strapped to the top of my pack the entire way, and it still only got me about 1/10 of my phone battery a day. Luckily, I had brought a backup power bank because I didn't want to trust my phone and my Garmin and my headlamp all on this solar charger, but if I had only carried this, I would have been absolutely out of luck and in some pretty dangerous situations. Plus, it's really bulky. This thing does pack down, but not super easily. And this does still end up being so much bulkier than just a traditional power bank would be. And by the time the sun went down, I never actually wanted to turn this thing on and play cards because I was too busy going to sleep. I was so tired on that whole trail. At the end of the day, there are better options, and I don't think that this functionality really works on a thru hike, although I do think it would be good in a car camping setup. It is a no for me. Continuing on the light theme, and I know people are going to disagree with me on this one, I don't like carrying headlamps. I think they're a little bit uncomfortable, and I typically wear a baseball hat when I hike, so if I have the brim here and the headlamp here, I'm automatically creating this massive shadow where the light can't go. The headlamp to me just isn't the best. What I do instead is I have a smartwatch with a flashlight on it, and I'll just hold my arm a little bit awkwardly in front of me as I'm hiking in low light, and I find that the light is plenty bright enough. Obviously, there are safety caveats to this. If I'm doing a lot of night hiking, if I'm in an area that's a little bit more high consequence, I'm typically bringing my headlamp with me just as a safety precaution. But it is not the thing I typically reach for if I'm trying to get some sort of light on the trail in front of me immediately. Plus, my other gripe with this, and you can probably tell by the fact that I've tied this thing together in a really weird way, I cannot get the back strap to stay tight on the back of my head. When I put it on, it feels like goggles that are just a little bit too big. If I don't have a weird knot in the back, it's just gonna slip as I hike, and I'm constantly gonna have to be readjusting it. And my final gripe, other than the fact that this makes me look insane, is that this thing doesn't have the range of motion that I want it to. When I extend this fully down and turn the light on, there's still typically a gap between my feet and where the light actually starts, especially if I'm looking ahead straight up the trail. In a perfect world, I would love to see a headlamp extend completely flat to the ground and let me actually look straight down at my feet. Otherwise, I'm just gonna be tripping. I'm clumsy. Great for safety. I understand the use case. It's just not my favorite. This gear, not for me. Another piece of safety gear for me that falls flat is I don't understand why anyone would use these tablets to purify their water when they could just use a water filter. Intellectually, I understand that these things work. You don't have to tell me that. I know it in my head. Technically, these things make water safe to drink. However, when I'm collecting water from a cow pit that I'm actively watching a cow poop into, and I can see the little poopy particles in my water bottle, I do not want to just drop a tablet in and then drink the poopy particles, even if I know that the bacteria will not make me sick. Instead, I just carry a water filter. It screws to the top of my water bottle, I squeeze the poopy water through it, and it comes out the other side not poopy, which is honestly how I prefer my water in everyday life too. I've heard some people who filter water and then do a purification tablet on top of it just for sanity. I really trust my filter. I've hiked thousands of miles. I've always used my filter. I've never gotten any sort of waterborne illness. So I'm just never really gonna add a purification tablet on top of the filter, and I'm never just gonna use the purification tablet on its own. Plus, if I don't have to carry a slightly heavy glass canister full of a consumable tablet, why would I? This piece of gear, not for me. Talking about water brings me to probably my first actually controversial take, and I'm sorry in advance to everyone who uses one of these. I'm sure you've seen thru-hikers go to a water source and pull out this thing to grab their water. I hate this thing. What's it called? I don't even know. I've never looked it up because I hate it so much. In theory, what you're supposed to be able to do is this. You slide this off. Typically this is connected to this, but I've detached it because it bothered me so much. You can flip this open and it gives you a wide mouth to collect water from a stream. Then you close it. Then you close it back up, slide this back on top. This thing's full of water. This would attach to a filter and you can squeeze through the bag. I have like 19 issues with this, but I'll only talk about my biggest 3. The first is that I find this so annoying to actually filter water from because it's so blobby. It's just doesn't hold its shape at all, and I feel like it's so hard to actually control this when you're trying to squeeze water into a teeny tiny opening at the top of a smart water bottle. What I've seen people do is they have this filled with water and they're rolling this down and they're squeezing, but then I don't understand why you wouldn't just do that with a water bottle. I will give a visual example to prove my point. The threading works the same as a smart water bottle. You just screw the filter on and theoretically it's good to go. You look me in the eye and tell me that this, with this thing flapping around, is easier than this. Bottle to bottle. That's the way God intended. Am I allowed to say that? That's gripe number 1. Gripe number 2 is that this material, as you can probably tell, is not puncture proof. If I'm keeping this somewhere in my pack with easy enough storage that legitimately every time I get to a water source, I can just pull it out and go, it's also going to be exposed to all of the sharp, thorny branches of the area I'm hiking through. Maybe my perspective is skewed by the fact that the CDT had a lot of overgrowth, and so a lot of things on the exterior of my pack got ripped or punctured, but I just don't trust this thing to make it through a thru hike. When it comes to my water filtration, I do not play around. I do not want there to be any points of failure. I don't want there to be any chance that I'm drinking unfiltered water. And I can just see so many ways in which a tiny little puncture in the side of this bag is going to cause dirty water to drip down into my bottle. I am not having that. Okay, and number 3 is honestly, I lied. Those are my only 2 big gripes about it, but those are 2 pretty big gripes. And so this piece of gear is not for me. Okay, I need to calm down. I got so heated about that one, but unfortunately now we are moving on to my number 1 most hated piece of gear. So I think instead I'm going to get a lot more riled up. Why are we using this? Why? Why are we using these inflatable pillows? Is this comfortable? Is this comfortable to you? Is this what you were sleeping on every night and your body is thanking you for it? This is a piece of plastic that suction cups to your ear, makes me so incredibly sweaty on the side of my face, collects my drool in the divots of the bag, and oh, by the way, since it's full of air, it doesn't compress at all, so it's not even comfortable. It's like I'm sleeping on a rock. Especially after blowing up my sleeping pad every night. The last thing I want to be doing is blowing up another stupid thing just to get a good night's sleep. I'm not doing this. I'm not finishing this. This is so uncomfortable. I would honestly rather sleep without a pillow, but I know that that's a little bit psychopath behavior, so I actually have another suggestion. And it is this. I've had this thing for years now, and I cannot say enough nice things about it. I don't know what brand it is. I think I've used it for so long, the tag has worn off and it's no longer legible. I want to say it's Thermarest, but really it's just a travel-sized pillowcase. Technically, the interior is slightly waterproof, and the exterior is this really comfortable fleecy fabric, and it's just a pillowcase, normal pillowcase. And what I do is I shove my rain gear in here every night, and it makes a little pillow that I can very easily lay my head on. It compresses like a pillow is supposed to do. The fleecy fabric absorbs my drool, and since it's a little bit more fabricy, it doesn't suction cup to my ear quite the way this plastic does. To each their own, but I think we're all sleeping on enough weird, plasticky, crinkly things that I just personally feel no need to add another thing to the list. This piece of gear is an absolute hard no from me. My last one is less contentious, but honestly, this is a really big hack that I feel like I learned very far into my backpacking journey, and that is, why would you carry a Swiss Army knife? Personally, the only thing I really use on a Swiss Army knife is the little scissor thing, and I found that I can replicate those results with just a razor blade. I've attached this to a handle just so you can see what I'm talking about. But just a standard run-of-the-mill razor blade accomplishes 99% of the things that a Swiss Army knife can do. It opens all of my food packages. If you get one that's a little bit thicker, you can even use it as a little screwdriver and take the corner to tighten trekking poles. If you're very careful and live on the edge, you can even kind of use a razor blade to cut your toenails, although I guess I wouldn't recommend that. And Jess is looking at me now like I'm crazy, but I have done that before. Swiss Army knives obviously are not the heaviest thing or the most cumbersome thing, so if I have to carry one, that's fine. I don't get too riled up about it, but honestly, my biggest thing is they're expensive. For the mini, it's like $50, and I can get a pack of hundreds of razor blades for $5. I don't typically have it on the handle when I'm backpacking. Instead, I wrap mine in a piece of wax paper, so that way I'm not gonna just cut myself or slice open my gear with a razor blade loose in my pack. But I found that to be a really wonderful replacement for me, and for that reason, a Swiss Army knife is not for me. I'm so intrigued when I talk to people about backpacking gear, especially people who have been backpacking for quite some time and have a lot of strong opinions about their gear. I feel like we all get so emotionally attached to what we use and what we don't like and what we love and what we want to recommend to others. And it's so easy to lose sight of the fact that backpacking gear just has to work for one person in their one niche, and it doesn't have to work for you for everything. That said, I feel so strongly that all of those pieces of backpacking gear don't have a place in my bag under any circumstance. And honestly, I'd go so far as to say they don't have a place in yours. Tell me why I'm wrong. I love to tussle. I'm feeling very riled up about this. So if you can try to change my mind about any of those things, especially the pillow or the Swiss Army knife, I would love to see you try, as long as you're willing to have a little fight in the comments below. I hope to see you out there, hopefully without an inflatable backpacking pillow and with a little razor blade wrapped in wax paper. Happy trails!